Problems, John. Unbelievable. That's the way to start things off. Morning, D. Graham. That's a Friday for you. You sit there and you think you hit all the buttons and you hadn't hit all the buttons. Good work. Thanks for joining us here for another Friday of SDH. John, here, you there, getting you ready for the weekend on a bunch of different levels. We got a lot of different divisions going on. It's WPSL, it's NPSL. Jarrett's going to be busy tomorrow. We're going to have WPSL on the network tomorrow afternoon. We've got MLS Next Pro on the network tonight. It is Atlanta and Charlotte on Sunday at Mercedes-Benz. So there's plenty to talk about this morning. So whatever's on your mind, put it on the table. Hour number 2 will be Weekend Whip Aroundy, and we'll discuss everything going on with the entire footprint when it comes to the activity this weekend. Morning, Alex. And so it'll be pretty busy this morning. Like I said, getting you ready. It's a quick turn from what happened in the midweek. Midweek, it was there. It's great. Now we got to focus on the weekend. So we'll get through all of the information that you need. We've got some interesting stuff in opening kickoff this morning. An opening kickoff might take us a while because there's more than one thing. And it's not really like news for the sake of news stuff, but it's really interesting stuff that would fit in kickoff. Calamari, y'all. Morning, Kefsey. So it's more kickoffy than it is news. So I figured what I would do is I would lump those items in opening kickoff, and then that would kind of clear the table for everything else going on this morning that you guys want to talk about and that we all want to talk about and figure out what in the wide world of sports is going on. So, all right, Noah, let's go into a no dilly, no dally zone. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code as I cover up the other QR code from our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps. That's your QR code for those of you who are watching, however you're watching this morning, or you're listening on the SDH app, on the YouTubes, on the Twitch, or on the 280-character app. Thanks for accessing us every single day that you do that. You hit that QR code. It takes you to Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget, when you start your day, maybe when you kick off your day with Kickoff Coffee, use the code SoccerDownHere15. They, in turn, take 15% off and take 10% and roll it over into youth initiatives, cool stuff that they have earmarked as cool to grow the game at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. I'll do housekeeping at the tail end of the kickoff. So this morning, I got an email. And traditionally, when you sign up for emails from leagues and things, I initially had it set to go to a particular email in particular, and for some reason, the SPFL decided to send it to my main email. It's like I wanted to have everything go to my specific Scottish Professional Football League email. I do have like 9 different emails just so I can divide things up when it comes to leagues and activities and such. But they send it to my main email. So I get all of my Scottish Professional email sent to my regular base email. I got this morning, and I was like, you got to be blanking kidding me. And if Jarrett cycles in this morning, I can ask him about this, but I wanted to put this out here because it is definitely opening kickoffy. And it has to do with our friends in the Scottish Professional Football League, Celtic, Rangers, Aberdeen, that group. Here's the first sentence of the email. Well, actually, tell you what, I'm going to read the header first and foremost. Premiership clubs vote to phase out artificial pitches in the SPFL's top flight. Let that set for a second. Premiership clubs vote to phase out artificial pitches in the SPFL's top flight. Clubs in the Premiership had brought forward a resolution seeking to phase out artificial pitches in Scotland's top division, which was issued to all Premiership clubs. The SPFL can confirm that the resolution has now passed. The SPFL board granted a 2-year period to allow clubs with an artificial pitch to plan for the phasing out of artificial pitches in the top tier of Scottish football. This sounds like 3 sentences that have looped back around on each other. This period of grace is in line with recommendations of the SPFL Competitions Working Group, which represents member clubs across the SPFL. The SPFL board recently approved plans for a Premiership-wide project to work with a leading pitch consultancy firm which is regularly used by UEFA to improve the standards of grass pitches in the Cinch Premiership. The SPFL will be engaging with Premiership clubs on this project ahead of the new season ends. And then for further information, they've got a dude that they can, they've got a dude that you can talk to. So let me get this straight. You end up, you've got a league that is not near the equator. And through the relationship that Atlanta United had with Aberdeen a couple of years ago, in earnest and in depth, it was really cool when you were a season ticket holder because of because of COVID-19 that you could get like free viewing of Aberdeen matches too. No, the lockdown was not cool, but getting the idea of getting to watch Aberdeen was as a part of your season ticket package, and so I took advantage of that. And last time I checked, Aberdeen is also not near the equator. So there were matches where you had big snowflakes and a lot of big snowflakes. You had matches that had a lot of cold, and I mean like orange ball cold here in Major League Soccer. And you had dudes wearing gloves, and you had dudes all bundled up, short of when they were playing, when they were just wearing like gloves and their jerseys and their kits and everything. They weren't like wearing toques on the air on the field, which would have been kind of funny. But there are surfaces in that league if you want to, actually play all your matches, where having turf was kind of a necessity. And it was a byproduct of A, cost, and B, actually getting all the matches played if you were a Premier League side or Premiership side. Sorry, Premier League is the other country there. So what the SPFL has decided now to do, if you're going to be in the top flight of Scottish football and you got turf, you got to blow it up. I don't quite think the SPFL has thought this through. Because for a league that is not near the equator, you have the financial repercussions of this. How many of these clubs, and especially the ones that end up getting promoted, say, into the Premiership, have the coin to swap out their turf fields and go ahead and swap it to grass? And has the league thought about, as I kind of ask this question rhetorically, and yes, Tom will get into that too this morning, has the league even thought about the notion of how many more matches will be postponed, creating unnecessary schedule compression, because you're requiring everybody to have grass? Kefsey, it might be. This is a Jarrett question. Like I said, we will ask him. Kefsey's asking, is this why Inverness is trying to move to Fife? So you've decided to sit there and flip everybody from turf to grass. I can't wait. I mean, and this is like literally, this is a 2-year thing where they've got to get all of this figured out. And I don't think that they have thought about the cost. And I don't think they've thought about the scheduling repercussions. But I can't wait to see what happens in 2 years when all of this stuff is played forward. The BBC has a story. 4 lower league clubs have described the Scottish Professional Football League proposal to ban artificial surfaces from the Premiership from 26 as unfair and fundamentally flawed. Wraith Rovers, who could be promoted to the top flight after this weekend's playoff final, have issued a joint statement along with Falkirk, Hamilton Academical, and Queens of the South, which, by the way, are 3 tremendous names. They're all 4 tremendous names for franchises. 4 clubs say it would cause significant long-term damage to Scottish football by undermining sporting integrity, impacting the wider game, and creating a huge financial entry barriers to the top league. Check, check, and check. They expressed disappointment that a constructive and well-considered alternative proposal has been adopted or incorporated into the Premiership plan. Quote, our view is that this decision is poorly thought through, and we do not believe it's acceptable for just 12 clubs to make this decision. This was literally currently just the folks in the top flight. Didn't consult anyone below them. It's like, yep, this is us, and if this is us, this is the reindeer games, and you got to play it. The four clubs argue that as Scotland is the world's most northerly non-Arctic nation, quote, the climate simply isn't always conducive to having perfect grass pitches due to high levels of rainfall, minimal sunshine, and high cloud coverage. The costs associated with achieving the highest possible standard of grass pitches year-round could be more than £750,000 a year per annum. 750,000 pounds a year. 750,000 pounds per year, with a large percentage of this attributed to the electricity required to fuel grass growth lamps. There's no question that a top-quality UEFA-approved artificial surface is far superior in every respect. The four clubs suggested there should be stricter rules governing the age and quality of artificial surfaces and financial help of up to £1.5 million offered to promoted clubs if a new rule forces them to change the grass pitch. With Livingston being relegated, Kilmarnock is left as the only Premiership club with an artificial surface unless Wraith are promoted, but the Airship Club plans to return to grass in 25. So it was passed this morning. Clubs in the lower divisions are chapped. And so they just decided they wanted to do it. Not the smartest tools in the shed. So keep an eye on the SPFL. Yes, I know that impacts only one club coming into the league or involved in the league. But folks that want in, you got to drop £750,000 to fix your grass, to fix your turf, to make it grass within 2 years. Like I said, I don't think that the front office really thought through this a whole lot. Unless they have ties to someone who is a grass manufacturer. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. How'd you do? How'd you do? Business decision to see how this is all laid out. That's point number one. To Tom's point in the Twitch pitch, by the way, don't know who started the petition. Dell, I don't. And I don't know if I don't think it was because of injuries. I'm thinking that there was some quotations about financials and things like that. Tom says happy 777 is dead day. Basically, what this means is that this is the last day, according to Farhad Mashiri, the current owner of Tom's beloved Everton, that they're going to be tied to 777, and they might be chasing after other owners finally. Finally. Oh, my God, oh, my God, oh, my God, is it finally happening? Could it be? It might be, it could be, it is. We think. This could be the end of it in chasing after 777, considering all the financial trouble that we have talked about, and them still wanting to have the wimpy philosophy when it comes to buying a football club. This is not part of opening kickoff, mind you. It's just a reminder. Thanks that Tom has put it in the Twitch pitch. But yeah, today is the deadline. Moshiri's going to turn possibly, probably, maybe, perhaps to other suitors and multiple suitors that would include part of the current ownership group of Crystal Palace and John Textor. Lapses at midnight tonight Eastern Time, 5 a.m. in England. 777 probably not going to be able to meet the conditions of Farhad Mashiri. Recently told the Everton Fan Advisory Board he's received multiple unsolicited approaches. Key with Textor, though, he's got a 40% stake in Crystal Palace. He'd have to sell that before he could jump in and buy any stake in Everton. No one else has said anything publicly. Right now, the Premier League has said it was previously minded to approve the takeover, subject to a number of strict terms, which included 777 repaying the £158 million loan to MSP Sports Capital and to Evertonian businessmen Andy Bell and George Downing back on April 15th. 777, by the way, have lent. 777 has been loaned over £200 million to cover working capital and construction costs for Bramley-Moore Dock. Everton have said the funding of the club is not in doubt in the short term. They have the option of selling players from Sean Dyche's squad. I know that Tom just put his fingers in his ears, as did Ropes. Some of the money could be needed before June 30, the end of the fiscal year, so that Everton can get in line with profit and sustainability rules. Remember, Everton was docked 8 points for 2 previous breaches, and everybody's staring at Jared Branthwaite. He might be the dude that would be the one that would get the biggest draw, looking about £70 million for him alone. Onana, Keane, Holgate, Mopé, Calvert-Lewin, but the big name, Jared Branthwaite, would be the one that could get you the biggest amount if you roll in. Paul Joyce has been a very, very busy man over at the Times. Another loan payment happened earlier this month to 777. I honestly would love to know. Moshiri's been talking to other parties, which has been confirmed by Colin Chong, interim CEO, in a letter to the Fan Advisory Board. I would love to know if all of this money that is being thrown at 777, who has been accused of fraud by London-based asset management company Leadenhall Capital in New York City. That's where that case is, by the way. I'd love to know the folks that just keep throwing bad money after bad at 777. I'd love to know what the end game is. Why do you do it? If 777 doesn't really have anything, and they just keep sitting there and leveraging one thing to the other and go and double selling or double representing and things like that. Go to Yosemite Football, by the way. They've done great work on this. I'd love to know what the end game is. If they don't really have property and they're trying to double sell it, why would you even be interested in continuing to loan them money unless you want to be a major creditor in something like Bramley-Moore Dock? That's the only thing I can think of. And we're still going. That was, once again, that was not opening kick. That was not an opening kickoff item, but since Tom mentioned it, I went there. The other item this morning in opening kickoff, I wish I frankly had. I wish I had it. I wish I had the music for from our buddy Eminem. Guess who's back? Back again. Jose Mourinho. There was talk that Jose Mourinho was going to go to Saudi Arabia and be, a manager / ambassador there. But now, after Roma sacked him in January, he has an agreement to become Fenerbahce's new manager. He was holding talks with the Saudi club Al Qadsiya over their managerial vacancy. And now, Fenerbahce for Jose Mourinho. Looks like it's a 2-year deal as Roma was headed toward 9th in the table. 2.5 years in charge there after 6 months after being sacked by Spurs. 2 sixth-place finishes, enjoyed greater success in Europe. Won Europa Conference League in 22, Europa League final in 23, lost on penalties to Sevilla. But now it appears that Jose Mourinho and Fenerbahce are now going to be buddies. What do you think the over-under is on that? Like I said, it's supposed to be a 2-year deal. But what do you think the over-under is on that? He said he didn't want to take a break in his career. 99 points in the Super League last season. Not that Super League, but the Turkish Super League. lost once all year, still finished second behind Galatasaray. And so, of course, that meant that folks got to protest. Fenerbahce loses to Galatasaray, who I think had 102 points. Lose once all year. Your coach is gone, and you bring in Jose Mourinho. So fans protesting in Istanbul. Won the title last in 2014. Galatasaray 5 times. Club president Ali Koç, alumnus of the Harrow School, under considerable pressure to end the run of 10 seasons without a title. Galatasaray now just 3 league titles behind Fenerbahce's all-time record of 28. And Koç is running for re-election as Fenerbahce's president, June 8 and 9. His opponent had promised to appoint Mourinho if successful, prompting Koç to move first. And if you want to see Mourinho for the last time as a pundit, you can watch British television for the Champions League final. Jorge Mendes is a part of the negotiations. Mourinho's 11th club job. Fred, Edin Dzeko, Dusan Tadic, Ryan Kent, Michy Batshuayi. All of that is involved. So Jose Mourinho is going into the cauldron that is the Turkish Super League. Okay? Like I said, I can't wait for this to go almost sideways and have any idea how long that this will take. And how long it's, like I said, it's a 2-year deal. No clue on how long that survival is going to be for Jose Mourinho in this particular situation. So, Scottish top flight. Everybody swapping the grass. 777 might be finally out, overdone, and gone when it comes to Everton. And Jose Mourinho's back in coaching in the Turkish Super League, where they're not afraid to protest, they're not afraid to rush the field, and they're not afraid to sit there and take swings at players. And players aren't afraid to take swings back at fans. So that is what you're staring at. Greg Garza is set to join us in a couple minutes here for the Friday Free Kick. And our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring. I do want to talk to Greg about his work with the ICA and talk about how cultures blend and things like that. I want to talk to him about his time with the ICA and what's going on in his mind there this morning. Hour number 2, obviously. Weekend whip around, patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully rather than later. And we'll go through the weekend and what's on your collective mind when it comes to everything in the world of soccer / football and what have you. So it would be intriguing to see what's on the mind of folks when it comes to what is on your mind this morning. Sorry, I'm trying to wrangle guests. And I might have somebody joining us like at the tail end of the show and to discuss what's going on with Atlanta and Charlotte. So bear with me for a second. I wish I had some hold music. And so, so we'll see what happens. Like I said, I'm guest wrangling, and it would be late in the show, like late in the show. But yeah, Greg Garza is set to join us here in a couple of minutes, and we can figure out what's going on. So good morning, D. Graham. Morning, Alex. Morning, Kefsey. Morning, Dell. Kefsey, a misdirected email from Scotland. Yes, yeah, that is why several meetings had to be held over, because it was in a junk folder. Yeah, Kefsey, it was put in the junk folder. It wasn't like in the true. It wasn't in the true folder to keep an eye on things. So it was put in the junk folder, which caused a delay in a vote or an incorrect reading of a vote. So that's what, and like I said, it might be why Inverness is trying to move to 5. Like I said, that's a Jarrett thing. Jarrett is so ingrained in the SPFL that he knows these answers better than I. and we can ask Dell about who started the petition, and we can figure out what's going on there. No, 2 years is not enough. Monofilament turf is greater than slit turf. Know your turf. I'm going to have to do some research now that Emilio is telling me about monofilament and slit turf. I have no idea. Crystal Palace or Everton when it comes to Texter. Kef's Eaton have it on no authority that Jack is going to infuse cash and bring a Krispy Kreme to the Warhol. That'd be kind of cool. If you got a Krispy Kreme there, hot donuts now on a match day, that would be so awesome. Bart is in Florida. Says it's sad not to wake up in South Florida. Or he's back. So he's back from South Florida. Also glad not to be waking up and immediately start sweating. Didn't your AC work in the places where you were? Did the Airbnb just recommend that you just have the windows open? Is that what they wanted to do with the Airbnb? Just asking. So morning ropes, morning hutch. So traditionally, as always, when Greg says he's going to be running a little late, we know what that translates into. The sum total of 2 minutes. That's the way it always is. Greg Garza says, I'm running a little late, but I'll be there. That always translates into 2 minutes. No lie. Every single time he has sent me a note saying that I'm going to be a little late, it ends up being 2 minutes. So I'm going to find the fancy open and we'll bring in Greg Garza for our friends from Beyond Goals Memory. Morning, my friend. I'm not wrong.
Good morning.
You say you're running a little late. That, like I said, traditionally that's just 2 minutes.
Especially for this summer, it's a lot of my mentees are wanting to do early workouts or stuff like that, and I just got to make sure I get it home in time and at least get some oatmeal in me and another cup of coffee. I'm out of milk right now, so I have to go to the grocery store.
Whoa, you're out.
I know. I ran out last night on my my cereal right before bed. I don't know how many adults do that, but I always have cereal before bed. I don't know. That's how I've always done that.
When did that start?
Always as a kid. Always cereal before bed.
Huh.
Yeah.
So what does that mean, that you get to sleep in a little bit, considering that you had breakfast before you get to go to bed? You get to skip.
I mean, not necessarily like right before bed. I would say like I'm always the type of person that after like a dinner, I always need something that's like, I guess you could say sweet. So I'll always I guess instead of doing like a chocolate cake or something like that, I'll do a bowl of cereal usually to kind of top it off.
So what kind of, well, see, now you're taunting people with the cereal. What kind of cereal, if you don't do chocolate or anything like that? So what kind of cereal? Are we talking like Fruity Pebbles or actually something healthy?
No, I'll do the Special K vanilla almond.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Because when I would do cereal consistently before I was told that I had an actual physical allergy to milk, I would do like the strawberry Special K?
Okay. Yeah. Like the strawberry flakes or whatever. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And so that's good. Yeah, and so that's what I ended up. That's what I would end up doing there instead of all of that. And then I just decided, but I'm not a chocolate guy anyway.
I'm a huge sweet guy. I mean, if I feel like I'm on a cheat day, then if I feel like I've just been worn out all day, I'll steal some of my kids' cereal, which is like the Cinnamon Toast Crunch, the Lucky Charms, the Reese's Puffs. The Oreo O's. That is one thing, man, that I missed every other country that I ever lived in rather than the United States. And every time I'd see like an American or another American player or anything, we'd always talk about cereal, man.
Why didn't you? Well, you could have had it like mailed to the team.
I should have. But I mean, I was just so used to being somewhere else to where just cereal is not a part of other places in the world, which is quite interesting.
That is weird. You mentioned getting up bright and early with mentees. How early are we talking here? And is that something that surprised you about this particular generation, where they're up and at 'em at like the crack of before dawn 30? It's like 5:30 in the morning. I want to have a discussion. How early are we talking? And is this a surprise to you?
No, this is more like workouts. This is more workouts. The kids that are in off season want to get a workout in, physically. It's not actually part of our mentorship, but it's just more so kids that I guess are kind of in that phase to where they maybe don't want to focus so much on the mental side because they're out of season,
Mhm.
right? And so they want to find a way to put in the work. And I guess for me, it's one of those questions to where when they ask me, I can't say no, man. I'm like, all right, well, I'm a go getter to work out myself and be in really good shape. So if feel free to come by, and if you can keep up, that's totally fine. But that's yeah, it's surprising. There are very few kids. There are very few kids that have the ability and I guess you could say will and want and desire to wake up at a specific time.
If you can keep up, I mean, how many of them come close? Or is everybody just like after 5 minutes, they just sit there and find a towel and sit there and go,
No, there's I don't think there's a kid. It's always funny that with most of my mentees, and when we'll mess around sometimes, and we'll add in a ball or do some games and stuff like that, and just kind of in our rest periods and all that kind of stuff. But it'll be interesting because at times I'll actually kind of let them think that they're doing really great, and then I'll switch it on or I'll turn it on and just be like, man, I'm sorry, man. This is what you got to get to, right? It's my mom never. I think we've had that conversation. My mom never used to let me win in anything, man. So I have that same mentality with my kids as well, and mentees as well.
so when was the first time that you beat your mom legit?
Um, I don't think I could beat my mom in a race until I was like 15 or 16 years
Oh,
old.
wow.
So she was always really athletic.
Okay.
And
That's
I see somebody from the comments. No, I am not going to TST. I've gotten asked by Clint Dempsey, by
Period.
DeMarcus Beasley, by the two teams here in Atlanta, Zala in Miami, I think every team.
Really?
I can't, man. I can't.
Well, but I
My body, it can't do it anymore.
well, but I think that as a realization as an athlete, I think that's huge that you can sit there and go like, that you've got that realization. You're like, nope, I can't do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I mean,
Well,
I would think,
the health insurance is also a big part of it as
yeah,
well.
yeah. I mean, it's like don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, and you get to keep your rate. But I
Yes,
mean, I would think that for athletes, that's got to be one of the toughest things to realize, despite everything that you might have gone through, all the injuries, all the pushing, all
right.
of the working out. That it's just like, no, I
Yeah,
can't do it anymore.
if anybody wants to kick a ball around, I'm always free to do so, but not to play at a competitive level to where it's because I do think there are some kids and some guys that are going that are like thinking it's going to be fun, but then on the other side, there are a lot of teams there that go for the main part of it, right? To not because of entertainment, but to try and win the money.
They're
So,
trying to win that $1,000,000,
yeah,
man.
yep,
And they're not going to sit there. Look, if they need to get stuck in a tackle for $1,000,000, they're going to get stuck in a tackle for a million
most
bucks.
most definitely.
You mentioned putting away the mental aspect of it for younger athletes. How difficult is that for them, and to remind them it's okay to put it to the side for a little bit? Because I would imagine that they're so geared up in trying to get to that next achievement, whatever it is, to remind them it's okay to shut it down a little bit so you don't burn it out in your quest for whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah, the mental component is still there, right? Because and I tell people all the time the to me everything is mental because the mental component is still there because what they're doing right now is getting better. Right? They're putting in that work and that work, wanting to put in that work and creating that discipline uh, outside of what you're usually accustomed to is still coming from up here, right? Nobody's telling you you have to do this or you need to do this. These are very few kids that are making that decision. I need to do this to get better. So it's still kudos to them in regard to understanding how important the mental aspect still is, even in your time off.
So when you try to impress upon them, it's okay, it's cool to take time off. Do they believe you at first because they're so driven?
Yeah, I mean, man, to be honest, it's Parkey always talks about it as well. It's a 24/7 athlete mindset, right? It's 365 days of the year. Even that time off and even that rest component, it's still a part of your job,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's all about like we've talked about it before, the self-regulation and finding a balance and control. Um, for me, I was the type of player that in off season I would take a week or maybe close to 10 days to where I would just completely relax, still probably kick the ball around with the kids and do certain things like that. But then after that, it was boom, back into it. So I don't know, 10 days a year, 10
Okay.
days a year to where I didn't focus on what my main goals were.
But how difficult is that, though? I would imagine that you're trying to sit there and, you don't want somebody sneaking up behind you. How difficult is it to detach?
I think after a long season, it's actually quite easy to get away from the game, right? You just got to go somewhere to where there is nothing around you and just kind of focus on what's in front of you, kind of live in that present
What,
moment.
like Mars? I mean, this day and age, man, you got to go someplace really obscure to check out.
Yeah, I think beach is always good because you can still, touch a ball for fun, but it has no I mean, then again, I mean, if I were to go to a beach, I'd probably still wake up early in the morning and still run the beach, right? So I think you're just always driven. That's that mindset shift that you're always driven to be better. I think that's the athlete's mindset.
How long did it take you to develop that mindset fully, where you understood A, what you needed to do, B, your limits, C, balance them both, and D, still accomplish what you wanted to accomplish?
Man, that's a hard question, John. I think from the very get go, as a little boy, that's something that I always give the example of, for most kids and most soccer players, and this might be everyone, but not everyone's like this. But most every kid that I always talk to, I always tell them, look, in a way, you've always wanted to be a leader, right, for yourself or for others.
Mm-hmm.
And some people will be like, no, I'm a follower, right? I don't know how to lead. And I always take them back to kindergarten, right? And I'll be like, in kindergarten, did you want to be the line leader to take everybody to lunch? And every kid's answer is always yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so in one way or another, they do know what it is to lead. They do know what it is to want to lead. So I think sometimes it's helping them understand that kind of be first mentality, not the Ricky Bobby be first or be last,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. If you're not first, you're last.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think of just like the be first of understanding that, hey, if there's a moment to where I can raise my hand and lead warm-ups, I'm going to do it. If there's a moment to where I can work a little bit extra on my own, I'm going to raise my hand and I'm going to do it, right? It's the cliche thing to say that, whatever you're doing, just expect somebody else is doing something a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
I mean, and the whole idea of following and leading, I think that there are times where we are leading and we don't know it at the time. I think there are those moments where, we just dive into a situation and it ends up being an experience for us where we do end up taking the lead instead of following along. And maybe there's a realization later that you're better at something for moments like that than you would have been otherwise for not taking that chance of finally sitting there saying, yeah, I can lead in a situation like this. I guess that there are moments where you do have those kinds of realizations at times.
most definitely. Yeah. I always tell people, I think even for myself, I was much more of a silent leader, right? Led by action, led by example, rather than being the vocal type of person.
I mean, silent leaders, those are the ones I think that can be the ones that almost make the most impact because you're silent, but then when you do speak up, everybody sits back and it's like, whoa, Greg actually, Greg said something. And so I think it has that much more import than it might be if you are the kind of individual that wants to sit there and be in folks' faces and sit there and yell and sit there and point fingers and go, you do this, you do this, you do this. I think the silent leaders probably can make more of an impact when they do speak up than otherwise.
Yeah, I think I even just talk about the contagious, right? The contagiousness that has, right? When somebody is leading by action and example, it just creates that contagiousness effect for everybody else around.
Greg Garza of Beyond Goals Mentoring hanging out with us here as our friends from at BG Mentoring on the Twitters do every Friday, that they're not globetrotting and checking on the planet and making sure that we're all heading in the same direction when it comes to mentoring and mentors and mentees and impacting the next generation. I finally remembered. I wanted to talk to you about your work with the ICA.
Yes.
And when did they first approach you to be one of those individuals to have these kinds of conversations with other professional athletes?
It was just a text from Luis Robles, who is the head of MLS Next and former New York Red Bull captain and goalkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was probably myself and a few others that were kind of on the bubble of just being involved and having somewhat of a good knowledge around what the league is all about in regard to understanding diversity. I mean, given my background of living all over the world and being trilingual and understanding different cultures and kind of, I think it just shows for itself. And every team that I played on, it was just bringing people together that were from other places. I feel like I was probably that glue in a lot of the teams that I played for. When there was even in Tijuana, when there was a Brazilian that came in, it was like he was next to me the whole entire time, just trying to kind of adapt and get acclimated with the new environment. It was me with Atlanta United, every single Latin player, and just kind of understanding, giving them the, the what it truly stands for, right? The cultural awareness of what it's like to be in a different area that you're not used to or accustomed to, and how quickly can you get acclimated. Life is very different. Our life in the States is very different from a lot of other places. So it was just a simple text from Luis of just being on the bubble of having that opportunity and them showing interest. And I mean, like I said, I raised my hand. I said, sure, I would love to be a part of something like this. I think even Luis, myself, and Diego Valeri actually have a panel here in Atlanta in July, something about something similar. So it'll be myself, Luis, and Diego Valeri that will do a panel next month. I'm not sure. I believe it's with the league, and I'm not sure with whatever else it is, but it'll be in the middle of July. Continuing on the good work of ICA and kind of how the league has benefited from it as well.
Okay, so I jumped the gun a little bit. You and I know what ICA means, but there are those that are in the Twitch pitch this morning, like Dell down in Charleston, who want to know what the ICA actually stands for and what it does.
Intercultural awareness. It's a program that is helping players with all diverse cultures, nationalities, backgrounds, helping the whole entire league acclimate to serve as one. Unfortunately, there were a lot of racial injustices and racial slurs and other racial incidents that happened, and that happens all around us every single day, right? But unfortunately, there were more than a few that had happened or have happened in the league for the past few years, that have been reported. And so it was a way for us to jump in and really help guide new players that are getting into the league, or just help kind of create a different understanding for a lot of the teams during their preseason, to understand what is expected of them as a professional, what is expected of them as a human being, what is expected of them, of understanding the differences of cultures, things that you can say, things that you can't say, how to act, how to serve as a, you have a social responsibility that is automatically attached to you. Because, I think a lot of guys and a lot of players, and this goes for all sports, sometimes you come from an upbringing or a background that, creates some form of resilience within you, but there's sometimes that educational background of what others have gone through, or what others, you know, in regard to respect, how to respect others, sometimes is not there. So, it's just to educate. And I guess that's the best way to put it, just to educate about the diverse cultures that are within the league, because I believe there are over, what we said there. I can look back at the decks, but I want to say there's over 97 different backgrounds within the league of
Wow.
MLS. So 97 different countries represented within one league is the most, by any other professional sports league that exists in the world. There is no other diverse league than the MLS.
Do you get to have these kind of conversations with your mentees about being aware of other cultures and their mores and their beliefs and things like that, or is it something that is outside of the mentor purview, but that you end up having casual conversations outside of your mentoring?
Yeah, I would say more so on like the nonprofit work that I do, and kind of speaking to schools or the Boys and Girls Clubs, or going and speaking to Title I schools, because you see a lot of diversity,
Yeah.
right? Whereas I think in the mentorship with what we do, we really try and custom tailor it to what that kid is currently going through, or what they are coping or trying to just build off of within their own journey. So usually the cultural background usually is not, commented about or spoken about as we're speaking about soccer specific things or sports specific mindset things. Whereas when I walk into a Title I school in Atlanta, I see every race, color, background, language, and just so many different things. And I think that is the great opportunity for me to use my ICA training, within those environments, within those circumstances, because it gives me an opportunity to kind of just really be an advocate for equality, and just help these kids start to look around and start to realize, because I love doing it, because usually I don't think anybody probably speaks to those kids about those things. They don't really look around and really see, okay, wow, there's a lot of different faces, a lot of different cultures, races, colors, and so it's fun for me to do it in those environments.
I was going to ask, when you get to have these kinds of conversations, and I mean, with age groups, I imagine that the tenor, the way that your presentation is probably a little different when it comes to discussing, okay, equality and diversity and all these different things. I imagine that the conversations are different for younger folks than they are for older folks when it comes to having these conversations with Title I school situations. But I would think that being at the forefront of something like this, as you are, and you get the chance to do, it's got to be humbling to have these kinds of conversations where you can be at the forefront and introduce these ideas to folks. It's like, look, they're just like you. Trust me. And you get to widen their perspectives, and you get to make that impact early on in their lives.
Yeah, I think, from even what you just said right there, I think being a professional or even a former professional athlete, you have, and you and I have talked about this before. You have a specific platform,
Right.
and I think it's a platform of, and I use this word a lot with people. It's just a platform of respect.
Mhm.
And I don't think if any other person would walk in there and give them a speech about just race in general, and just understanding the different cultures, most people would be like, this guy doesn't have the credibility to speak to us about these things.
Mhm.
And so I think sometimes going into a situation, I think that's kind of the beauty about me living all over the world and speaking so many different languages and being a Mexican American and being somebody who has been able to flourish within both places, right? Have that experience within both cultures that I've been a part of within my life. So I think it gives me that amount of credibility to even step in and have those conversations with the league itself,
Yeah.
right? And I think even going into the different clubs, in the MLS, and then like speaking with people who I hadn't seen in years and speaking Spanish to them with fluent Spanish as if I was one of them, and then seeing a Brazilian or a Portuguese guy that I hadn't seen in years and then speaking to them. And I think just that respect right there around the room, they're like, holy crap, all right, this guy's been around. Right. So, I think it just allows that credibility to be able to speak about those things that sometimes are hard topics,
Yeah.
really hard topics to speak about. So, but it's more of just creating just eye-opening experiences for a lot of these kids, and even for like the MLS teams. There's some things that I've seen within my career that I'd never could have imagined I would have ever witnessed. So I get to share those experiences and share those kind of facts to them to help them understand, okay, this issue is real, right? This issue is real, and it does happen in our day-to-day lives. And we have a social responsibility and a platform to try and not change a person, but just help people view things in a different lens.
Yeah, you get to widen their perspectives and let them know about what's going on in their own world that they may not necessarily know about. Dell is asking what you're reading these days and what you're watching these days, and I will cater that to help you with your mentoring and the advice that you give and the manners in which you do it. What are you reading and what are you watching?
As of right now, I am not reading anything.
Marky's turned into the big reader.
Yeah, Parky is the huge reader, man. He is a massive reader. I don't and I tell my parents all the time, I just don't have time. I don't have time. I'm such a workhorse, and I'm such like a go-getter, and I'm obsessed with always working that I feel like I'm always doing something. I'm like, if I have 15 minutes here, okay, I'll have 15 minutes to work on this. And I stink at that because I want to learn. I now know 4 notes how to play on the guitar, and I want to learn the guitar this summer.
Okay.
That's something that I've always wanted to learn, but like I did it for 2 weeks straight and then I stopped. So I need to stay consistent with that again. And even if it's before going to bed, I think when I walk on like a stair stepper, or when I'm like cycling in the gym, I'm still on like the treble, the Man City treble. I'm still in the middle of that right now, which is really cool to watch. And what else? Yeah, nothing. Well, I just watched the Mavs kick Minnesota's ass last night, which was great. Luka went on a tear. So, and hopefully, and then I'll watch the Stars tonight. I'm a Dallas kid. It's a good time to be a Dallas kid, man. Texas Rangers won everything last year. Dallas, hopefully they can pull off. Boston sucks in the finals anyway. They always get there, and then they suck anyway. So we'll see how good Tatum really. When Tatum always gets these points and then he just folds, and I think Luka is made for the spotlight, man.
Well, are we going to talk about your Cowboys? Everybody else.
No, you can't talk about the Cowboys, man.
Everybody else has won something in that market, and it's been forever since
Cowboys. God, the '90s. I was still a little kid, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah. And Jerry Jones was still the owner. And
I know that. He will be until his dying days, man.
And then Steven will take over, the number one son. You mentioned it off the top, but what's going on at Beyond Goals these days?
Same old, man. Just continue to try and make connections and relationships with a lot of great people, and we're always trying to whip up something new, right? So a lot of ideas within that.
Loving it. Thanks as always, my friend, for hopping on and letting everybody know what's going on and letting everybody understand what's going on inside the brain of Greg Garza when it comes to our friends and helping out the next generation at Beyond Goals Mentoring. It's always great to see you, my friend. We'll catch up.
Thanks for having me, man. We'll catch up soon. Take care. Have a good weekend, bud.
All right, you too. That's Greg. So A couple of other things that were mentioned in the Twitch pitch as we go. Yes, D. Graham mentions that BVB now has a sponsorship agreement with a German arms manufacturer. Saw that. That will be interesting. And then Red Bull's bought a stake in Leeds. They say that they're not going to turn Leeds into like Red Bull's Leeds, but apparently Red Bull is going to be across the front of the shirt because remember, you've got to get rid of your casino and online betting and gambling folks over the next year or two. So Red Bull is going to be on the front of stuff involving Leeds United going forward. That's going to be interesting as well. Yeah, Tom, I knew where you were going when it comes to getting a steak. You got a steak in Leeds. I like my medium rare. Let's see. What else did I? Bit of an update involving our friends at 777. Once again, our friends at Yosemar Football. And they titled the article, Filippo Clare and Paul Brown. Once again, when you got more than one dude on the byline, you know it's rough. They go back and look at what's going on. And apparently, then once again, it's a big old deep dive. All of the clubs, and this is basically the lead, all of the football clubs in the 777 partners portfolio are up for sale. But the full scale of the colossal debt burden at Genoa will be a concern for potential buyers. And where does this leave Everton? And so that is the debts for Genoa are now they're over €250 million. 273 million euro, which places Genoa at the very bottom of Serie A's league table of the worst performers in terms of their debt to income ratio, 227% of turnover. Worse than Roma, worse than Inter, worse than Torino, worse than Juve and Salernitana. Salernitana was the one that got relegated. Genoa is last, and this is from Milano Finanza from the 25th of May, so 6 days ago. Genoa could point at a decrease in their overall debt burden of a whole €25 million within the calendar year, but it would ignore the crucial element in the evaluation, the huge tax rebate the Italian tax office gave to the club, arguing that they were in a state of crisis or insolvency, and after they'd failed to offload their debts to the taxman and social security agencies by transferring them to a subsidiary, Genoa had filed a ricorso, an appeal, with the bankruptcy division of the Tribunale di Genova on November the 2nd. Ricorso was successful, hailed as a victory. Genoa awarded a 65% tax and social contributions haircut. Generous terms of repayment explains why the accounts show a big drop of 50% in the amount due to the Italian government. So Genoa is the one of the big benefactors of filing appeals, but 777 apparently now has all of their football properties up for sale. And remember, we talked about Standard Liège and how much of a street fight that is. The fans don't want 777. 777 is happy to have them, but now apparently they're up for sale too, especially when you get locked out of the building. That's never good. Yosemar had access to documents filed by 777 Partners legal counsels to substantiate the claim for ricorso. They go into that. Then it gets into Standard Liège. We talked about Standard Liège and what's going on there in the court. And Wander and Pasco, they said they were not just removed from their positions on the board, but their removal of the board itself. So they were pulled out of 1 and 2 different spots. Yosemar understands neither creditor, MSP, and Rights and Media Funding currently want to go down the administration route, but neither do they currently want to own Everton. Interesting, however, that ACAP has held talks with both groups. Could they be trying to step into Josh Wander's shoes? Could be quite the magic trick to force the sale of 777's entire footballing portfolio and then owning Everton. So we mentioned Texter. Wander's best efforts to buy Everton essentially doomed to failure some time ago. The rival bidder was mentioned with Texter. First, he'd need to sell his 45% stake in Palace, conferring only 25% of the voting rights over what happens at Selhurst Park. He's been trying to sell that stake for months, already reduced the asking price once. So that is the news involving, and I figured Tom would be happy with most of this. So that is your required reading of the day right there. That's your 777 note and your note about everything going on involving who isn't, who might, and who might not be. So that's the big news about 777. On the 280 character app, remember we are releasing, if I could get my front plate to work, we've got a lot of content coming out this morning. It is WPSL, it is NPSL Southeast, it is USL League One, USL League Two, USL Championship, USLW League, all coming out this morning. And that's coming out, and it's going to be posted on the app. We've had 4 of the 6 released. 2 more are going to be released in the 11 o'clock hour. According to FIFA, and you can call this breaking news, but I'm not going to give it the breaking news sounder. According to FIFA, female players and coaches are to be provided additional protections to their well-being from June 1st. Several amendments to the current regulations on the status and transfer of players will take effect. And FIFA is reducing all of these things to help protect female players and coaches. Additional protection for their well-being. FIFA says, and this is FIFA quoting, they've been listening to the concerns of women in the game and following thorough discussions with key stakeholders, and a previous set of landmark reforms moved to further protect their well-being by implementing changes approved by the FIFA Council in May, extending the rights and protections to adoptive parents as well as non-biological mothers. Also recognize the physical, psychological, and social dimensions in the event of an inability to provide employment services due to severe how do we phrase this? Medical issues and or complications with females relating to pregnancy. Member associations encouraged to allow female players to have contact with their families while on international duty. Quote from FIFA, quote from FIFA, quote from Jill Ellis. More stuff from Jill Ellis. Quote from FIFA's chief women's officer, Dame Sarai Behrman, said the new measures recognize the players are the main stakeholders. Measures also recognize women have different biological makeup. So FIFA had a rather big statement, and then they posted it this morning. Let's see what else. FIFA's 14 weeks paid maternity leave for coaches, and previously that was just for players. Clubs can sign players temporarily to cover maternity leave. So that is out from FIFA this morning. So that's word from FIFA. All right, Tom is waiting for news of oil money interest to drop. Yeah, there was talk about Dubai, I believe, that was interested in probably being interested in picking up Everton as an ownership group, as an ownership entity. So we'll see what happens with that. Yeah, Dell's wondering how he's going to remember to gamble without the shirt sponsors. I don't know. Just don't gamble. How do we phrase? Do not gamble electronically. I think that's the big element in all of this. And I'll thank you for all of you that were adding your cereal thoughts. Captain Crunch, absolutely. Crunch berries, absolutely. And Uncrustable for ropes after dinner is his snack, and ice cream, the late night snack for Abby. Jarrett joins us for hour number 2. Do you have a late night snack, sir? Because Greg mentioned in his segment in the Friday Free Kick that he can't go to bed without having a bowl of cereal before he goes to bed.
Not particularly. It's not generally one thing or the other, just kind of whatever I find.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, for me, it's whatever's there, and it might be the Little Debbie's oatmeal cream pie, or it might be something like that. And I don't do chocolate except for like maybe once every 90 days, but it's usually something in that vein. I can't quite do the bowl of cereal. So, I just wanted to ask about that as we get into a weekend whip around. Patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully, rather than later. And getting into all of the matchups here. Oh, I meant to ask about the SPFL thing that we had an opening kickoff about everybody converting to grass. Folks were wondering if Kefsey was wondering if that was why Inverness was trying to move to Fife as a part of it. And who started this in the first place? Do you know?
I don't actually. I haven't done enough research on it. I just know everyone's mad. That's kind of where it's at. Because, I mean, it's 120, 130 miles away. Like, imagine you moved a functioning team to Chattanooga.
Yeah.
And still wanted to call it Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Still play games here.
Yeah.
But everyone lived and operated and functioned in Chattanooga.
Right.
Or vice versa. It also has to do with and I'm not as well versed. There are other people in Scotland you could talk to who are more well versed in this, but it is a different thing because Inverness as a community is different than what you have here. Like you have traditionally players go there and they really do assimilate into the culture. So if that's not happening and everything just exists in Fife, then it just kind of feels hollow. Like, yeah, you're claiming you're putting Inverness Caledonian Thistle on the kit, but what's the value of it? Especially considering the fact that Inverness only existed since I think '98 when two clubs formed. Well, it's two clubs merged.
Yeah.
I think it was Inverness and Caledonian Thistle. So
okay,
ICT only exists because it was two clubs merging in the first place. But now moving is kind of weird there. I don't know what they'll do about the plastic pitch thing, as they want to call it. They have a huge issue with it in general, but again, you have to take a break during the season in Scotland.
Yeah.
Because if you're playing in the Highlands, like it's going to permafrost over, man.
Uh-huh.
Like one of the reasons you play on turf in Livingston is one, the cost of maintaining it. And the other is that you get up into the Highlands, it gets hard to grow, man. Like it's a hard, brutal surface to play on. Adele, I'm fine. I would love grass as long as like everybody's gonna like be able to play on it carefully, because not all grass is created the same, as we've seen in Nashville.
Yep.
And it's not just this isn't just a shot at Nashville SC. It's a shot at all of Nissan Stadium.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just Joseph's knee that blew up there. Like there are a number of NFL players who blew out knees on that turf because it was just a really bad surface.
Yeah.
Consistently bad surface, man. This whole idea that like it's this whole idea that people are so hard dead set against turf that they'll take anything else. Like, man, look, bad turf or bad grass isn't always going to be better than good turf. Like, especially nowadays with the way they're trying to change turf and try and make it better. Yeah, would you prefer to play on a good grass surface? Yeah, I think everybody would. But it's tough. We're gonna see how they manage to do it for the all the events here in the next few years.
That is absolutely true. All right, time to get into what is going on involving the weekend whip around and all of the activity involving Major League Soccer. Time to get in. We talked a little bit about it with Nico yesterday, just for some of the ones that are the news and notes ones.
Yeah, KFC, I told people Wednesday night, don't bet on MLS. And then I know everyone else jumped on and said the same thing. Between the Atlanta game in Nashville and then the Atlanta game in Miami and then when Nashville did to Cincinnati, if you bet on this league, no one has any sympathy for whatever deranged decision-making you might have.
Correct.
Also, don't bet on things if it's going to make you that stressed out or that angry. Don't bet on this stupid ass league. I love everything about it. It is beautiful. It is chaotic. It's getting consistently more skilled and more fun as the years go by. Don't bet on it though.
No.
Like that's if you want to throw your money away, just come to me. I'll take it from you.
Exactly. That is exactly true. So Jason, is it wise not to bet on Major League Soccer?
Well, yeah. I mean, parity is a real thing. Like, there's not the giant separation between teams. And when you get into a match week like Wednesday, where, I mean, you've got some teams that have played midweek games like 2, 3, 4 weeks in a row, it feels like. Legs are gone. Sharpness isn't there. Crazy things happen. So, combine that with the lack of a large gap in terms of quality between teams, and you get crazier results in this league, more unpredictable results. That's what keeps it really interesting. That's what gives everybody an opportunity. But yeah, if you're betting on this league in large volumes and just making random plays, you're insane.
Oh boy.
I did not bet on the Quakes. I'm not betting on the Quakes. I don't bet on the Quakes at this point, because my issue with the Quakes is the fact that they still have Lucci managing it. They didn't replenish that roster the way it deserved to be replenished, because go watch the Quakes in 2023. Early in the season, we watched them like, that's a fun team. Like, oh no, they're actually good. That's like just a straight up solid team, not an MLS Cup team. That was a solid team. And they didn't replenish that roster. When you had guys go out, you did not bring guys back in. I'm not betting on the Quakes. I feel bad for the insane San Jose fans who, were fans from the start, not the ones who did it as a gimmick and then fell in love like I did, and just made bad decisions. But like people who were invested there, who have to watch this basura, where it's just a team that isn't being invested in enough on the ownership side.
Okay. So then, since you're on a roll, what's your first question for Jason? Is Jason's here getting ready to keep an eye on practice and other things?
Jason's also getting his boards together because he has a busy weekend of calling games.
True.
So Jason, I guess for this weekend, so I want to ask you about something, and I apologize if this ends up taking a chunk of the segment. It's something that we Tata Martino talked about a lot, and it's something Gonzalo Pinedo touched on after the game, which is the idea of one more in the back. Went with one of the reasons you go three in the back is, it's two up top, whereas you might go four in the back with one up top. So you have one more defender per attacker. I know it's not a hard and fast and set in life rule. How are you feeling this weekend about how you set that up? Do you add an extra center back for security, or do you continue with the four with someone sliding over and helping provide that security? Maybe it's Caleb Wiley staying deep, or do you just add the other center back there depending on who's available?
Charlotte doesn't really play two up top, and I think when you get into this conversation, there's multiple levels to it. I think with Gonzalo, he's not someone of the kind of the Bielsa mindset, which Tata has some of. Gabriel Heinze had a lot of it. Heinze was rigid in this. If a team was going to play two up top, he played three center backs. If they played one striker, then he played two center backs. I mean, you could clock it. And I think I said it before every game, like what it was going to be in terms of how many center backs. That was how he structured his team. It was loose in terms of the overall formational structure, but they played the same way. It was about that numerical superiority. Miami, you can list it as a 4-3-3 if you want, but you know how it's going to go pretty much with Messi and Suarez being central. So you'd like to have one extra guy there against that kind of quality. And it worked, and it suited the team, and it suited the guys that were available. That doesn't mean because Charlotte doesn't play two up top that you can't play three center backs. You can. You just have to be dialed in terms of how you deal with it, because sometimes, and we've seen this play out with different teams in the world, where three center backs against one forward, you've got, one guy who might be more of the safety valve, and then the other two are like pointing fingers at who's taking the forward. You've got to be dialed in terms of when that forward moves, either passing him off to the other one, making sure you have cover, and also making sure you're not wasting a guy in the back. If it happens, I think you have the players to be able to do this. Let's say Atlanta goes three center backs and Charlotte plays a 4-3-3 with Adjiman up top as the 9. Okay, you got to make sure he's covered at all times, because he's going to make you work for sure. But when you're in possession, you don't need to play 3 versus 1 defensively there. That's when Abram or Gregerson can step up and be an additional central midfielder, an additional 6 in front of the 2 who would have the 1 forward covered. You've got the wingers, your center backs aren't dealing with. So you can make it work. You just have to be in alignment and in conversation about how it goes when you have the ball, so you're not wasting a player defensively when you need them in the build-up, because just like you want numerical superiority defensively, you want it offensively. You want it in parts of the field. So if you have 3 versus 1 in the back, you're not going to be able to get that numerical superiority in other places. You've got to find a way to make that work. You have the players who can. Abram can step in and play as a second six. Gregerson, with his ability on the ball, can step up and play as a second six. If Williams is in the middle, you would keep him there for the most part. But look, if the rotations happen and he steps up to play as a second six, he can do that. These things can work. I think the balance for Gonzalo this weekend is, you have something that worked really well. It worked really well against a very specific kind of opponent. Charlotte is a very different kind of opponent. Charlotte might come in to the bends and put numbers behind the ball, and it might look more like a 4-5-1 as opposed to a 4-3-3. You're going to need to have that adaptation in your structure, regardless of what you pick, to adjust to Charlotte, because they're going to be different. The other thing that this formation did, I think, it makes sense to lock in to the center backs and the 9 portion of it, but it allowed Caleb Wiley to be very free to get forward. I thought Caleb had one of his better games in 2024 in that position as a wingback. You haven't been able to get the left wing sorted out. No one has given you the level of performance that you've needed on the left wing. You've literally tried everybody. So, and we talked about this a while back, if you get down to the point where you're like, I don't have any other options at left wing. I've moved Saba over. I've played everybody who's a left winger. I moved Caleb up to play left wing. Tried everything. If none of those things work, just don't play with a left winger. And this is a way you can do it while still being strong. Not being defensive, not being negative, but being strong, with Wiley coming from that position, but from a deeper role. And also, when it looked a little more like a 3-4-3 or a 3-4-2-1, Almada can flare to the left. Thiago can take some of that space to the left. He's not a winger by any stretch. Saba's going to look more like a winger in this kind of a shape by flaring wider to the right. But Thiago can occupy the space to the left of the middle and still give you the balance that you need. And I think that's the number one thing that came out of that game against Miami, was even with the change in shape and the change in personnel, I thought they looked very balanced when they went forward. You had options on both sides. You had plenty of different ways to play it. And I thought it worked really well.
What concerns you the most about Charlotte these days?
They're a better team. I mean, they're just a harder team to break down. Going into Red Bulls, they had a string of clean sheets. Kalina's in great form. He was my vote for player of the month with the number of clean sheets that he had. He's been outstanding. And that defense is dialed in to what their manager wants. They're going to start from there and be a much more difficult team to break down. And they're going to come in on the road, and they would be very, very happy with a draw at the Bends. They would have no problems taking that point back up the road. And that's a mentality that has to be understood a little bit better. There's an interview coming out in our History of Atlanta Soccer podcast series, should drop today, with Daniel Rios. I had a chance to talk to him about the rivalries in general, but we talked a lot about Charlotte, obviously, with his time there, and Nashville with his time there. But one of the things he said that has stuck with me, and it's just good to hear this as a reminder. When you're in a rivalry game, of course you want to win. Your fans want you to win, in these kinds of rivalries where we're talking about Charlotte, we're talking about Nashville, in some parts of the fan base in the region, you've got areas where you'll have Atlanta fans and Charlotte fans who are friends and right next to each other, and they're going to be talking trash to one another. And, Rios talked about it with his time in Guadalajara with Chivas. Atlas beats Chivas. Atlas fans are going to make fun of the Chivas fans. You don't want to deal with that for the next week.
Right.
But the important thing about this, and this is what we forget here in this country, and I think it's something we've got to understand in the way the game gets played. If Charlotte comes down and takes a draw, they're going to be happy. If Atlanta fights back, let's say Charlotte gets the first lead and Atlanta fights back and gets a draw out of it, you're not going to be happy, but you can't lose rivalry games.
Right.
It's a difference. And look, we don't have this in college football. You know, we don't have this in the college football rivalry games where, you know, you can get to a point in the game, and if you've been around this game long enough, you know this feeling. Your team is playing well. You're controlling things to a certain point. But, man, you could sit there and play for 3 more days, and you're not going to score another goal. It's just sometimes you get to that point. It's like, you know what? We better protect what we have. When you just flood numbers forward because we're here to win, that's what we do, rah, 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 and you flood numbers forward and give up 3 goals. Like, it's worse. In a rivalry game, you've got to make sure you come out of there with something. Now, at home, the onus is on you to win. Don't misunderstand me. Don't put words in my mouth. Don't twist that around. But to understand Charlotte's mentality here, of course they're going to come down to try to win. They're going to have a strategy to win this match. But they're going to be very happy with taking a draw out of it. And they're going to play that way at times. And you've got to find the way to break that down. This is a much better defensive Charlotte team than we've ever seen.
Jarrett, go for it.
As far as, you know, how you set up the attack in a game like this, and I'm glad you talked about Charlotte's defensive organization. When you're putting together the strike setup, let's assume that, you know, you talked about it in the lead up to the Miami game. You want guys ideally 60 minutes. Now, I don't know if GG's 60 minutes.
I can't imagine that he is.
No, neither could I. I'm trying to be generous here.
Yeah.
Is it Rios or Teare that you're going with, and what's the thesis for each one as to why you would take one or the other if you're going up top?
If he is able to play 60 minutes, it's Jamal Teare, because he is just in great form. He has been all season long, even with injuries. And he's such a hard worker as that 9. He can, in this kind of a shape, if you play the 3, whatever you want to call it, honestly, and this is why I hate formations, because you could call it a 5-3-2, you could call it a 5-4-1, you could call it a 5-2-3, you could call it a 3-4-3, you could call it a 3-4-2-1. All those things are pretty accurate. It's all stupid. So with TRA as the true forward in the shape, how many times against Miami did he run for 2 guys?
Mm-hmm.
He's just a different player. He's different than Rios. I talked about it when Rios was signed. He's always a player that I've wanted to see in this team because I think he has always been underrated. Nashville should have played him more. Charlotte should have played him more. He's here now. He is a great complementary 9. So playing the 2 of them, you could do that. You could play a 3-5-2 or a 3 or a 4-4-2 like we've seen with TRA and Rios. Rios is going to drop in. He's a little more technical. He can combine. I think he's really good at understanding shape and positional balance. But TRA is the guy that you've got to go with because of where he is right now in form and the work he can give you. And when you're a tired team, like every team in the league is right now, and you've got somebody that, look, he might be only able to go 60, and if Yorgos can go up from about 15 to 20 minutes available to closer to 30, that's a pretty good balance, because Jamal's the kind of guy who will go out there and give you every ounce of energy he has for as long as he's on the field. And when he starts to do it and have success and be disruptive, you get that running from others, and it becomes contagious, and it makes the team better. And you saw Miami's difficulties at times playing through what was essentially a one-man press.
Yeah, Jamal's motor, and I know that we talk about motors in a lot of different sports, but you'll be looking at the wide shot when you're watching it on television, and Jamal could be 20, 25 yards away from the keeper who's about ready to introduce the ball from inside the 18. Jamal's ready to buzz the tower. I mean, Jamal is ready to sit there and run his you-know-what off to try to give somebody something to think about. And he's doing that all match long as he's got that kind of energy. And that is, it's contagious, I think, when you have that kind of display from someone like Jamal. It's like, hey, he's still running his you-know-what off. I think, I can still do that too. It feeds off of itself with the other players.
And this team is one of the leading teams in MLS in distance covered, in miles, kilometers covered in sprints and intensive runs, all of those things. But every team, no matter if you are the fittest team and you are the most runningest team, when you see somebody go to another level, which TRA does, then you have to too. You have to. You have to match that. He sets the tone, I think, in so many ways. And it feels like every game, that effort from him and that ability to close down with his length, he will catch some defender or goalkeeper by surprise by being able to get there when they don't think he can get there. It happens every time, at least once.
How much longer do we have you, partner?
Another 5-6 minutes or so.
Okay, Jarrett, go for it.
Sorry, I'm answering questions about today's game.
Yeah, don't get me started on that one, man.
I didn't say a damn word to you.
You don't want to go there.
I didn't say anything to you.
Uh-huh.
I'm not putting my hand in the bear trap.
You don't want to.
I actually wanted to ask you about something positive.
Okay.
Decatur FC.
Yes.
You got a question about Decatur FC?
Yes.
I have to find it now. Did you get a chance to talk about it? And what you've seen so far and what you've experienced so far with Decatur FC coming online?
I mean, it's twofold. It's the community aspect of it, which is awesome. And I've been involved with both Georgia Impact and Decatur FC from the beginnings for both of them. Decatur thought about coming in last year. They wanted to hold off and get everything right. It was the right decision from our friend Gareth O'Sullivan. And then they weren't sure they were going to be able to do it this year, but Decatur High School became available, and it's such a great facility for them, right in the middle of downtown Decatur, walking distance to the O'Sullivan's pub. You get that back and forth. It's an amazing community feel, and Impact does a great job with the community feel up in Canton as well, and that's always the kind of clubs that I'm going to gravitate to and support. What's impressive about this Decatur team, and there's so many players that I know from Georgia State and from other local colleges, and from coming up in the community, that it's a really good group of players. This is a really good team. Bree Barley's somebody that I've talked about for years at Georgia State. Honestly, you want to make a comparison, really similar with her defensive work and her just willingness to grind off the ball to Jamal TRA. She always makes things happen. She loves that. She's an attacking player who's very creative, scored the first goal for Decatur, but she loves to press and she loves to turn teams over. So you've got that up top. You've got Jada Foose in the back in goal. Now, I'm not sure if you're going to have her all season long. That's the one thing about these summer leagues that is tough, is players got to get ready for their fall season. And sometimes, you have to take a break because they've come off of a spring season. They're playing in the summer. They're going straight into the fall. There's not really much of a preseason in the fall. Sometimes you need that physical break, but also that mental break. So I think keep that in mind with these summer teams, where you'll see players in different phases. You might not see somebody at the beginning because they might take the break at the first portion of the season. It might be later in the year that they take that break. So you've got just a number of really, really good players for Decatur. And their next home game is hosting Impact next weekend, which is going to be a lot of fun. Maddie and I are on the Impact game tomorrow up in Canton. They're playing Nashville Rhythm, who is the best team in the conference. I don't think Decatur's all that far off of them. And I'm excited to see Impact for the first time this year. I think they have a very, very good roster this season as well.
Yeah.
First of all, Bree Barley in my brain is still a freshman at Georgia State wrecking shop. It's weird that she's
there's another Barley coming from North Gwinnett. Kendall Barley is also very, very good.
Hey, I don't think people understood, and no matter how many times we might have told them, that Georgia State team had an almost unhealthy level of fight in them. Everyone on that roster was ready to go. And I mean that in the nicest way possible.
Because they've got that Spanish mentality, which you just don't see in American women's college soccer. And look, Decatur, the way that they're playing, and it's not just because they have Georgia State players, but their mentality is similar in that they want the ball. they're not just playing direct. They're not just playing vertical. I think maybe in the way that the game is evolving, there should be an understanding of where it's going. Possession teams still want to get vertical. Vertical teams might not necessarily want possession. There's two different aspects to this. Look at Liverpool, for example, under Jurgen Klopp and his evolution. They were a team that didn't really want the ball for a long time, and when teams made them have it, they didn't really know what to do with it. They turned into a much better possession team, but at heart, they wanted to get vertical. They wanted to be able to activate their pressing as well. Manchester City gets absolutely vertical when they need to under Pep Guardiola. The game is evolving to where you're not purely like, we don't play long, we don't play vertical, we only do this. No. It's all about situations. But Decatur has that mentality of, we want the ball, we're going to combine, we're going to try to work from the back to the front, but we've also got that scrappiness in us. And if the game is not there for us to control it with the ball, well, we can go be disruptive or we can go fight. And you just don't see a lot of women's teams in the United States at any level have that kind of mentality that Georgia State does. And I think Decatur will have across the season as well.
Very, very busy day for you and Mike on different fronts. It starts off, the word has come out on social media, on the 280 character app, that there's something going on at 1 o'clock that you and Mike.
Why are you acting like nobody knows what it is? I'm sure Jarrett's been talking about it for months.
I'm more focused on the
Why
fact
are you acting like it's a mystery?
I'm trying to.
Jarrett's been in training for months. He's actually got shoes that won't disrupt themselves and fall apart.
That's what I was getting to. The fact
he's been talking about it. This is no secret.
Well, then tell Atlanta United to post it on Twitter sooner than 15 minutes ago.
They don't need to post it. Jarrett's been talking about it. Good grief. He's going to do something ridiculous today. We all know this.
Yes. That is
Can
true.
it be? I don't know that it could be worse than trying to juggle out of the box while barefoot and then turning it over for an easy goal.
That was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen on a soccer field.
Dell,
I do want to also point out, though, that you may be a good or bad influence, because I do want to mention that Madison Cruz is planning to do the Cherokee game with you, and then she has the full intention of driving down to Silverbacks Park for Apotheos afterward, doing the doubleheader.
That's what we do, man. That's what we do.
Absolutely.
I'm proud of her.
Yeah. I mean,
she did Unified and twos in Nashville and Huntsville, so.
Yeah, no. You being an influence, it's okay.
So going from Impact to Apotheos is nothing, man. She did.
That's nothing. That's the same state. That's the same metro area.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you know what? Everyone who's the trick is just to survive the hate that is Silverbacks Park.
Oh yeah, no, you got to be careful. There might be things that smell really bad. There might be things that you don't want to know what it was because it's not that anymore. There's a lot of things there you got to be careful about. They're working on it. It's gotten better. It definitely has. But
Alex, I promise that Jason doesn't need a cookbook for his grievances against all of us. He keeps them. They're mentally on point at all times.
Oh yeah, I mean that's just come on.
And
I've been doing this a while.
Jason doesn't play anymore, but I can confirm he has a very good right foot.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that I could. I kind of, in what I do, need my brain. And I had a bad concussion. God, what about 12 years ago now? Not quite 12 years ago now. I was coaching and got hit in the back of the head with a ball. And I had played all my life up to that point and had probably had multiple concussions. Just didn't know because we were all dumb in those days.
Yeah.
Was never knocked out. So there was never like a point where I would have, when I was coming up playing either as a kid or in high school or as an adult after, where I would have thought about having a concussion. But, you know, I mean, elbows to the head. I got kicked in the head playing goalkeeper as a little kid. The best basketball play I ever made in intramurals at UGA. I drew a charge in the last second of our tournament game from this gigantic guy that I was not having a good time defending. But drew the charge. We end up winning the tournament game. My head bounced off the floor like a basketball. Was, again, this is late 90s. Like, it's just, you get up and you play because we didn't know any better. So when I got my bad concussion, I decided I wasn't going to play anymore. Now I really, really miss it. I wish I could jump out there and nutmeg Jarrett 5 different times in this game, but I can't. Because I would nutmeg Jarrett in the game and then dribble back around him the other way and nutmeg him again.
Even if you were on the same team?
No, I wouldn't be on the same team. I do have a little bit of pull. I would make sure that didn't happen.
Okay. But, yep, in the media game, Jarrett and Maddie are going to be they're going to be participating 1:00 on Atlanta United social media.
I'm excited to see if Tyler Pilgrim can be the first person in media game history to score a hat trick while wearing a hat.
He might be able to pull it off. The wearing a hat part, yes. The hat trick part, I don't know.
Yeah, so we might have to bring.
Also, maybe Abe Gordon can actually score on a shoeless person this time.
No, it's not going to happen. And there better not be a shoeless person out there this time. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, my God. And then after that, Jason, we've got the 2s at the fraction.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here now, and then I'm going to go with media that we have with Gonzalo and player speaking to the media here in just a bit. Then the media game, then the 2s tonight, then tomorrow afternoon, Georgia Impact, then the first team Sunday. It's a jam-packed weekend.
Absolutely. So catch your breath, and we'll catch up with you soon, my friend.
I just got to fuel up to make sure I have some good one-liners for Jarrett in the media game.
Absolutely.
This is amazing because I've been playing with Sheffield Saturday for a year now. Half of them are in this Twitch pitch right now. And they're able to confirm all of the chaos.
Oh, yeah. No. It's going to be ridiculous. Something very, very dumb will happen in this game. This is my prediction. You want to gamble on something with American soccer? Here you go.
There you go.
Something very, very dumb will happen in this game, and it will be Jarrett's fault.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, because up until I blew
you
up
can't
my shoes,
argue that.
No. Up until I blew up my shoes, the best part of that game last year was when I think Felipe turned it over in the middle of the field. Joe was out of his goal, and we stood on the sideline like, "Hey, Joe, you should get back." Because Bocanegra got the ball, looked up, saw where Joe was, and then just chipped him from half field. It was basically it was a layup for Boca, and we just stood there like, "Hey, you should get back." He's not going to get back. No, he's not going to get back.
No,
I about fell out of the booth on that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man. So 1:00 start of the media match. Looking forward to it on Atlanta United's social media platforms. And the even money that something is going to happen, something stupid's going to happen, and that Jarrett will be immediately linked to it, I think is
no, immediately linked. He's going to do it. There's no linkage. He's going to do something very, very dumb.
2 years in a row. It's like you just keep adding numbers to the sign.
You had 5 things to pick from last time. I think it will be less than that.
Yeah,
but at least one very dumb thing will come from Jarrett Smith in this match.
Yeah, so if you've got your over-under at +5, at +0.5, take the over of stupid things that will happen in the match.
See if you can find that one on one of the betting sites.
Exactly. All right, we'll see you in a bit.
Adios.
There he goes. And so that's Jason. And
Alex has played against me enough at this point to understand. He's right. Distance is the key. If you're close to me, we're fine. I've tried not to hurt. I have managed to not hurt anyone on pickup on the small fields for Sheffield. Yeah, man. Stay close to me. We're cool, man. It's when I get momentum.
Yes.
That's the problem.
Or because folks just need to draft off you. I think that's what's going on.
Well, the problem is it takes me a couple more feet to stop.
Yes, that's true.
I stopped pretty quickly just because I learned how to break down through baseball so quickly that I can hit the brakes quickly if I need to, and as quickly as some of these smaller guys.
Yes. Will Pelagic joining us at the top of the hour briefly to discuss the Charlotte perspective as they come down the freeway.
And yes, ropes. Probably we will have the turf shoes on, and then I have a backup pair as well.
Yes. So we'll get
Marta turf shoes.
Yes. So we'll get Willie P. Styles' perspective on things from the Charlotte point of view coming up top of the hour. He is literally driving back to the home studio from practice as we speak in anticipation of being on the show here this morning to put a bow on things on a Friday. So weekend whip around time. Oh, and we'll get through all the juice boxes, see if they've shifted, see if anything's going on, see if anything's in Jarrett's mind. Remember that it is the Champions League final, and it's probably Real Madrid's world, and the rest of us are just kind of in it at the moment. Never bet against Carlo Ancelotti. Atlanta is the last match of the weekend, so naturally we'll get to talk about that one last. Tonight, actually, the weekend starts with NYC and San Jose at 7:30 at insert New York area stadium here. NYCFC, who's caught fire recently, Jared, a minus 161. Your Quakes are just under a plus 400 in the composite.
Nope. Nick Cushing is somehow saving his job.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're staring at. The run that he's been on the last handful of matches, and the genuine excitement that's there from the players. We talked about it with Dylan, and just how things have changed with NYC, and NYC's at a minus 161. 7:30 is when our buddy Kevin Egan gets very, very busy with MLS 360. DC United and Toronto FC. DC United a minus 127 at home. Toronto on the road, north of plus 300.
Oh, that's actually a really fun potential.
As is the draw. The draw is also north of plus 300, and I'm going to go digging into a total. So, Jarrett, what do you think?
So here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
No one, in my opinion, has said it better than Nico did yesterday. That Toronto's floor is higher with John Herdman. Yeah. I don't think their ceiling is. I think their ceiling is still pretty limited. The delta between their floor and their ceiling is not a lot. But you're at this point, you're as far as your Italian contingency can take you.
True.
But Toronto, man, like that floor is enough to cause problems. And if they can just limit Benteke, which seems to be what everyone's trying to do and failing to do it again, once again, it's not like Atlanta's not the only team that's failed that task.
Right.
If they can at least not stop him, but limit him, kind of like the old LeBron thing of like, you have to understand that he's going to get 25 or 30. You just can't let him go for 40 and a triple-double. Right. If you can limit him, then I don't hate Toronto here.
Total over-under at plus 2.5. The over.
I'm taking the over.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Over at 2.5 is a minus 177. Over at 3.5 is a plus 141. So that's where it flips. So are you comfortable with taking the over at 3.5?
Oh yeah.
So that's a plus 141 composite. So that's probably the play on the board. If you're going to avoid actual winners and such and go after that, then the 3.5 and the over would be your play. Messi and friends. Don't know how many of them are going to be participating in this particular match, but they are a large favorite against All Caps SC.
Messi and friends. This is rebound city.
Minus 217, and probably take the over. And if you can change your fantasy team, or if you haven't set your fantasy team to go heavy, enter Miami, you probably should. All Caps is a plus 484 to win. Draws basically a plus 400. Red Bulls and the purple team. Red Bulls are a minus 128. Orlando City is a plus 333 in the composite. Draws a plus 278.
I don't trust Orlando. I'm sorry, Orlando don't.
Yeah, Orlando don't. Exactly. Very nice.
I don't really trust them. That goal against Chicago, we should have talked about it with Jason just so I can hear him.
Oh God.
If y'all haven't seen this yet.
8 different touches inside the 6.
Yeah, the goal against Chicago was the most U8. Everyone's on the ground just poking at the ball in the box, and then eventually the gods of chaos got bored, moved on to something else. The ball ricocheted off of somebody, and fate dragged it into the corner of the goal. And it wasn't even like it took a deflection and went in quickly. It took a deflection and took the saddest,
oh my God,
most like tragic slow roll into the corner of the net that you have possibly ever seen.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was like in slow motion without it being in slow motion. It literally, you didn't have to slow-mo the film or the TV transmission to see that it was in slow motion, and you just see all of these red jerseys just staring at it, going,
Yeah,
oh.
man, that thing was like a Werner Herzog film. Like if you would like just show the whole thing, yeah, like take some of the color out, grain it up a bit, put the most like depressing music you could find, it would just fit perfectly. It was, yeah, that was. There are a lot of things that happened this midweek, and that one kind of got lost in the shuffle, and it's a tragedy. It deserved more attention for its stupidity.
Absolutely. Union hosting CF Montreal at a minus 222. CF Montreal is north of plus 530. Your draw's a plus 383.
Plus 383 sounds nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Union ain't scoring, and I think Semley's still in net, so anything is possible against CF Montreal, but it just seems like an absolute grinder in that one. That plus 383 is very tempting.
Well, and he is still in net because Blake had surgery.
So, I picked up Semley as one of my two keepers this week, and I started him, and so I imagine it might be something resembling a clean sheet. So take the under if you can find it, probably with Philly and CF Montreal. 8:30s, Fire hosting LAG. Juice box purveyors have thrown a blanket over the whole thing. Basically, you can get each team just north of plus 150 to win it if you want. Fire in the composite, a slight favorite, plus 152 to plus 154.
No. Ropes is correct.
No.
Just whatever he just said, the agony of the ball's movement to the feet of the team. Just said in Werner Herzog's voice as the ball just slowly rolled into the corner.
Exactly.
With Chicago's entire existence condensed into a 40-second clip.
Yes. So I would think that your protein power pack of Paintsel, Peck, and Puig might have a bit of a field day against that defense. So I'd go LAG on the road. Loons and Sporting. Minnesota United is a minus 130 at home. Sporting to win is a plus 309, and your draw is a plus 305.
Yeah, this is just a mosh pit of a game. Take Minnesota. And unfortunately, it's just going to create more pressure for Peter Vermes in Kansas City.
Okay.
It would be the most like rivalry week stupidity for Kansas City to come out and win that game.
Mm-hmm.
And alleviate pressure, even if it's just for like a couple weeks. But I don't know that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it would just be very funny if it did.
Yes, absolutely true.
Minnesota's weird, man. Like every time I watch Minnesota, like I feel like I'm watching a different team where they'll have games where they look genuinely outstanding. I'm like, oh my God, these guys can play.
Mm-hmm.
This is really good.
Yeah.
Like we made fun of them in the offseason for good reason. They didn't have a technical director or a coach. And they've put it in their interim, put it together really well. And then they've been good, but then they'll also have games where you're like, I can kind of see the cracks on the I can kind of see the cracks on the gilding here on the pottery.
Yes. So
it just needs to be shored up.
Give
them time. Give them time. Whatever they are this year, I think they'll be better next year. Also, Reynoso's gone.
Yes,
you have the drama festival is over.
Liga MX. Wow.
Good luck, bud.
Exactly. Nashville hosting the Revs at a minus 145. Talk about the false flag possibly for Nashville if they get the win against the Revs. Hey, Nashville won. Yeah, but the Revs.
Yeah, but we do the same thing here, and everybody does the same thing everywhere. It's the Revs because, man, Shooter hasn't been with us in a minute. Oh, Shooter's okay.
Yeah, I know.
I don't blame Shooter for not having been with us because his team has abandoned him.
Yeah. Yeah, he's trying to root for RIFC, and that's not helping much either.
I feel for the fans up there because I still don't know that you ever got a clear answer on what happened with Bruce.
No.
And now you are speed running the Caleb Porter experience. Unfortunately, when you speed run the Caleb Porter experience, you skip over the part where he wins MLS Cup before it collapses around his ears. And you've skipped right to the collapse around his ears aspect.
Yeah. Let's see. RSL hosting Los Verdes at minus
RSL is just good.
Austin's basically a plus 500, so that's not helping matters much either.
Austin's just kind of chilling out in purgatory.
Yeah.
terminally.
Yep. Also on the board, LAFC hosting FC Dallas. There are 3 late games. LAFC hosting FC Dallas at a -312. FC Dallas is basically a +800. Not even going to touch it. Maybe a total, but that's about it.
No.
Portland hosting Houston at a +117 as Houston goes on the road at a +217. Your draw's a +259. That doesn't sound
Houston's
good.
well, man. Houston's kind of come back down to earth a bit.
Yeah.
From like last season into early this season. Whereas we talked about it yesterday, man. Like with Nico, that Portland has a good collection of talent. Just don't really know what Phil Neville's doing sometimes. It's weird because, like, I thought Phil Neville got a bad shake in Miami.
Yeah,
and that he should have gotten down ballot votes for manager of the year in 22.
Yes.
Because they were in the middle of all the sanctions, got them to the playoffs. Like, and they lost in the first round, but like, change things up, put the armband on Gregory. Higuain kicked it into gear late in the season. Like, I think they were better than the sum of their parts at that point.
Right.
Didn't really connect over into 23, and Hamburglar wasn't really there to save you. I kind of felt like he got it kind of a raw. It didn't get enough credit for the work in 22.
Right.
Especially like changing the leadership on the roster, putting the armband on somebody else, making changes. Thought he did a good job of that. And then 23 wasn't good, and now 24, it kind of feels like you're underachieving a bit, and it's kind of feeling like maybe 22 was the outlier there, bud.
Yeah. Just a bit. So that one is one of the other late games. The other late activity, Vancouver hosting Colorado in a sneaky good matchup in the West.
Yeah.
10:40 start. Our buddy Vanni Sartini is at a -109. Draws a +287, and Colorado on the road is a +262.
No, I agree. That's a sneaky good one. Man, Vancouver's just fun. I really like Vancouver. Again, go back to what Nico said yesterday. That like it just feels like Vancouver has all the buy-in in the world, and God bless them for it.
Yep. The last matchup is the matchup involving Atlanta and Charlotte. Atlanta favored as a -123 in the composite. Draws a +283, and Charlotte's a +309. Instead of picking a winner, give me some keys.
You clinical with your chances because and you're gonna have to be like, you might have to be exceptional in front of goal, and not just clinical, but like you might need more of what Saba gave you, and if it's from Saba, great. If it's from somebody else, great. Because Kalina has been that good. I mean, he has. I agree with Jason. Kalina should be your player of the month in this league. He was absolutely out of his mind for a month. Oh God, was it 2 years ago? I remember he had like one game 2 years ago where he just had I think it was against Philly. He had a really bad game, had a terrible like howler of a giveaway. And I think people kind of softened on him, but then he was really good. Last year was fine. This year he's like back to Super Saiyan levels.
Yep.
The problem I have with that is that when you have a keeper who keeps being Superman, no one can be Superman forever. Eventually you regress to the mean. Doesn't mean that you become bad. It might just mean that you become human.
Yeah.
So they'll have to clean up some of the stuff defensively. They'll build up this roster. I still think there's room for them to get better on the attack. They'll have some DP spots to play with in the summer window. I don't know what you do with Swiderski coming back, how he factors in. If he factors in, if they don't just send him somewhere else, I don't know. It's actually something we could ask Will about. But they'll have. Yeah, now you're getting Leila Bada back into fitness after he took a while to get here. I think he had to do the thing where he came on a visiting visa, left, had to go back to Israel, and then came back. Then he was banged up, which sucks because he was banged up for the end of 23 as well when he was in Glasgow, and I think that's when everything started to really boil over, coinciding, of course, with the conflict in the Middle East. But I think there's room for them to get better. It's just you have to be beyond clinical offensively.
Okay.
You're going to have to punish them, and you might involve putting away a half chance.
Yep.
Not
So-
creating great perfect chances. Go ahead on.
No, I was just going to say, you can ask your questions all over again because,
Yeah.
by the way, Casey's here. It's Willie Salad, Pelagic. The fourth has held up. The fourth has held up the sign, but I don't know how many minutes he's holding up. I can't quite see it. I don't have my glasses on. So, Jarrett, your questions about Charlotte. Go for it.
Oh my God, let's just do this again. Okay,
What's up, Jared? How are you, Ben? How are you,
Man,
John, as well?
I'm doing okay. You all right?
I'm good, man. Beautiful weather day we're having in Charlotte. I don't know what it's like down in Atlanta, but it's beautiful here.
It's the humidity that makes me suffer every day of my life.
We're
The
actually
80
we've had some luck with the humidity this week. I don't know what it is.
Blessings upon you. I'm happy for you because we have not. Actually, we were just talking about Charlotte in the lead up to this game, and just the defensive organization's been really impressive from this team. I know Kalina's made some outstanding saves. Jason talked about it earlier. I agree. I think he's the player of the month for this league. What he's done this month has been nothing short of outstanding. What's the next step for this team in terms of getting the attack going? I know the summer window will come. There's opportunity and space to add more guys, but until then, how can this attack take the next step?
Jared, if you have the answer, I'm sure the technical staff at Charlotte FC is all ears right now. Because quite frankly, that's the question I keep asking myself. And the simple answer I get all the time is, you got to be more creative. And I think that is actually the one thing, watching back that game as I did last night. The chances were there in the first half. Adjaman hits a post. Bada comes close, makes the goalkeeper work a little bit. Bender has one chance that goes awry before the one that he puts home in the second half. Unfortunately, that was after the result had kind of already been determined. But the chances are there, and it just comes down to clinical finishing. Adjaman goes down in the box twice. One maybe a little bit soft. One, though, I think had the merits of potentially having a penalty involved. And it comes down to a lot of those things that, unfortunately, we talk about. It's the soccer equivalent of what we say in hockey, puck luck. Some things are just not going the way of Charlotte right now. They got those bounces earlier in the season, even, without the benefit of Enzo Capetti doing a whole lot. Capetti, while he made some runs, his goal output was only, one goal. So from that aspect, it was, something to be said. They were winning despite not getting a lot of productivity from the DP level. Even Abada only has one goal to his name. And heard you guys talking about that before I came on. It's unfortunate that he went down hurt right after he got here. So they've been able to do a lot despite not having production from top end and top sold talent. It's unfortunately right now kind of the scenario they find themselves in this next 8-game stretch before the start of the summer transfer window. I know for at least my own knowledge, the sporting department is working very, very hard. They've got their people out everywhere trying to figure out what the next piece looks like. They really have not had a 10 since their inception. Like Sergio Ruiz was a nice piece, but it was more developmental. I think they thought Titi Ortiz could be that guy in the first year. Didn't pan out. They've looked to Breck Diahare to fill that role. It's had mixed results at best. And even still last year, trying to put Swiderski into that role, I don't know if it was met with necessarily the best reception from Carroll's point of mind, because I think Carroll felt that he was still an out-and-out striker, and having to play the second fiddle to Enzo Capetti is just not where he felt like he wanted his career to be. And I think honestly maybe led to part of the reason why he departed. I don't think he really ever said that expressly, but I'm just supposing here at this point. But from that aspect right now, you're dealing with a league that really values and rewards teams that have a talisman. Almada, Mukhtar, Carlos Heel, Evander. These are the players, Lucio Acosta. These are the players that this league, and again, it's not unique to MLS, but in this league specifically, with the way the roster rules are, having the 3 DP spots, if you don't have a central attacking midfielder occupying one of those spots in a high danger capacity, you are going to have problems scoring goals in this league. And that's where Charlotte FC is right now.
I think that Will Jarrett is basically saying that they need to bring Chubby over from the arena to help out with puck luck and make sure that the checkers in Charlotte FC.
That's good. That's a good reference there.
Could you see two up top with Chubby and Minty and Sir Minty? Could you see the two of them up top?
Minty can be like a bowling ball, and Minty's going to occupy two center backs, so somebody's got to be open.
Okay. So, Jarrett, what other questions did you have of Charlotte and of Will this morning? Because literally, I asked him, I said, what are you up to 10 o'clock? He's like, I'm at practice, but I can come on late. And literally, he just jumped into his pilot seat to get in here for the end of the show today. So what else is on your mind?
Yeah, so speaking as someone who has followed Celtic for many years because I have a mental illness that has not been diagnosed properly, I've seen Lilabata for a couple of years now, and I was excited when y'all brought him in. And so I had the same thoughts. It's like he needs to get in, needs to get healthy, and then the injury pops up. But what's been kind of the feedback on him so far when he has been able to get on the field and kind of work in with this team?
I love him, Jarrett. I think he's great. I think he's exactly what Charlotte needed, at the wing position with what Dean Smith wants to do. He wants his wingers to work hard, but he wants them to get a variety of ways to break down an opponent. Dean loves wingers who can take players on. Like, that's part of the reason why he loves a guy like Tiger Smalls, because he's not afraid to take players on. Same thing for Kerwin Vargas. That's why I think he projected very highly in Dean's system. That's why Kerwin has signed a contract extension during this season to be with the club, hopefully for a much longer period of time and go beyond that U22 initiative. And I think Leo Labata is the high end portion of that productivity, because he does have the ability to take players on, but I also think he's not shy of knowing when to cut in and get himself a nose for goal. From his time at Celtic, the thing that they were always talking about with him is that he always seems to be around the ball in dangerous areas. Unfortunately, I don't know if he has the best supporting cast around him to not draw attention. Like, that's the part of it that I feel like needs to be the next step for Charlotte FC. If you get a target striker who is going to command attention, or number 10 that's going to command attention, that means you have Abada singled up on somebody and he's able to get himself in dangerous areas. Right now, he's probably occupying the attention of more center backs than you'd want him to. I think he's also getting himself in situations where he's gone up against a couple of very strong left backs. Had to deal with Kai Wagner in the Philadelphia contest, and we all know about the strength of John Tolkien with the New York Red Bulls on the midweek. So I think he's had some tough assignments, but he has the one goal to his name, and I think he's somebody who is going to continue to progress once he gets back up to full 90-minute fitness. I think you'll start seeing the goals come more often. And also when he gets, a number 9 striker that, is having the kind of form that's better than what Patrick Agyemang is on right now. And again, it could even be Patrick Agyemang, because I still think he's got a lot of greatness in his game that can definitely be extrapolated into a bigger, longer sense. But I think right now he's got the target on his chest right now and on his back, and so I think he's just trying to get to that. And also from a fitness standpoint, like you said before, didn't play a lot last year because of not only the fitness, but the injury, but and also the stuff off the field. I think it's a scenario right now where once he gets himself back up to that fitness and gets more of the flow of what this league is going to be, what he can get away with, things of that nature, and also a familiarity with the opponents, I think you'll see the best of Leo Labata to come.
Willie P dropping all of his knowledge here in stoppage time on a Friday. And let me ask you this. When it comes to the matchup in general, what from a Charlotte perspective concerns you the most about Atlanta United going into this one?
I mean, their quality up top. Libanitse is somebody who I think we've been really trying to see what can be unlocked with him en masse, and you saw it on Wednesday against Inter Miami. Obviously, the threat of Giakoumakis is somebody who you look at and you say is very, very dangerous, obviously. And of course, Almada, he's somebody who came into his own a lot last year. And even a guy like Caleb Wiley, who had himself a field day in that first matchup between these two squads a year ago. Granted, I think Charlotte FC is probably better equipped to handle that now based on where they were at the time they played in that first matchup. The tactical scenario in that matchup, I will be kind to former manager Christian Latanzio. It wasn't set up the best. You had Brant Bronico playing as a left back, inverting, which is not his game, and you had a significant level of injuries that were happening earlier in the year last year. Charlotte FC is a lot more healthy right now. They're even getting a couple guys even further back. So I think they are very much more equipped they're similarly equipped like they were in the May matchup last year to handle what Atlanta can bring from an offensive standpoint. But that's honestly where my concern is making sure you can do your best to contain what Almada can do on the ball. You guys showed some real great quality against a very tough to break down Inter Miami side, and that's something I feel like, they're coming into what I feel like is their moment. I feel like if you would have asked me this question on Tuesday, I would have felt pretty good about things. But Wednesday, definitely not only from the way that we performed, but also the way that Atlanta performed, reassured me that this is going to be a battle on Sunday.
Jarrett, go for it.
We saw Ben Bender. You mentioned him. He got his goal against New York, and he's coming back from injury. It seems like ever since he's gotten there, he's played he's answered the bell every time.
Mm-hmm.
No matter where they've put him out there, he's busted his tail. Brent Bronico kind of in that same boat of guys that are not the first names you think of. Whether it's them or someone else, who is someone on that roster that might feature Sunday afternoon that Atlanta fans might not know that they're going to want to keep an eye on, who could make a difference for this Charlotte team?
I think the guy is Jabril Diani, honestly. He's somebody who has kind of played the kind of between the 6 and 8 in the double pivot with Westwood, and he's gone forward a lot. He had a penalty spot goal for us earlier in the year. He's somebody who has had a lot of control of the ball for Charlotte FC in the midfield between him and Westwood. Westwood leads in shot creating actions, but Diani has definitely been on the ball a lot himself. I think he's somebody he's got a big frame, so he's definitely a big target, especially on set pieces. Unfortunately, our set piece service has left a lot to be desired this year, so unfortunately they have not been able to use him as much as that target, but he's somebody who I feel like is definitely kind of coming into his own. Nikola Petkovic didn't feature on Wednesday, and I'm wondering if the match congestion was part of the reason why, but he's somebody who is a great young developmental player for Charlotte FC, came out on a $3 million transfer to our reserve team a year ago, and only reason he didn't make the first team was because we didn't have a U22 slot to give him because of our DP scenario. Now that the DPs kind of have gone out, we have a young DP on our roster. We were able to use the U22 initiative to bring him up this year, and he's become a real great player to watch. But I think Bender involves a shout as well. And the one thing I always try to kind of meet Ben Bender with a little bit of a, kind of easing people, because he's honestly, if you asked our fan base, I'd say he's the universally most beloved player. They love the fact that he was the number 1 overall draft pick in the first year. I think the fact that he is kind of somebody who, has that grit about him doesn't hurt. I think they love the corner flag celebration, gets people excited as well. Nice looking kid too. So, I mean, that's something that doesn't hurt from that particular perspective. So I think that definitely helps with our female part of the crowd. But he was the player that, honestly, when he was going through rehab with his torn meniscus, was the guy who was most asked about, when's Ben Bender coming back? When's Ben Bender coming back? And, we see Ben Bender at practice. When's he coming back? When's he coming back? And the thing you got to remember with him is that it went 7 months without playing in a competitive match outside of a couple of closed-door matches and 1 match for our reserve team, Crown Legacy. And they have to kind of, ease him along. He got 15 minutes the other night against New York Red Bulls, came out of it okay. Maybe he can feature for a half hour in this contest. But the one thing about him is that, he's got goals in him, which is something that Charlotte FC is in desperate need of, as we talked about earlier, and somebody who's not afraid to take a shot. And you mentioned the fact that, he was in a variety of positions under Christian Latanzio and Miguel Angel Ramirez. Miguel liked him more centrally. Latanzio liked him as more a winger. Dean has mentioned that he sees him more centrally. So he's somebody who can definitely come on and spell a Petkovic or a Diahare, depending on who they use at the 10 on Sunday. But I think Ben is somebody who this club is going to really like, particularly, I think, after the break. I think once the 2-week break happens, I think you might be able to see the management team trusting in him a lot more, or they could surprise me and start him on Sunday. I have no idea, but they've been very intentionally cautious with him because the last thing they want is him going out there and the knee not feeling right. He also had a little bit of a quad issue as well. Kind of, dealing with that while he was rehabbing or after the rehab and while he was trying to get himself back up to fitness. So once that's in the rearview mirror, and I think they believe it is, you'll expect to see him feature a lot more.
Spell Diahare.
Dejaegere.
Diahare.
Diahare.
Not a lot of Scrabble points in that, man. There's a lot of balls there.
I'll tell you right now, Pelagic is 36. So
nice. That's strong.
with no word score help in that either.
I mean, 2 Z's get you 20. That gets you out of the blocks in a hurry, man.
Exactly. Well, you have to find because I think there's only one Z in the tile pile, so you have to find the blank space to give you the wild there.
There you go. Broadcast plans for you and Jess.
We'll be on the air at 4:00 Saturday. Kick time, as you know, because of it being on Fox, shifts to 4:55. So we'll be on a little longer than we're used to, but we got some cool features. Had a chance to sit down with Charlotte FC's business manager, Natalie Jarrett, talking about the great traveling support that we're going to have down there. I think the last number they gave us was 1,600, so close to 2,000 Charlotte FC fans making their way down wearing blue down I-85 to see the game on Sunday. I know we had a lot of traveling support there a year ago. A lot of them came on buses free of charge, courtesy of Ally, our front of shirt sponsor. So that's really, really cool. And I had a chance to also talk to Ashley Westwood about the result Wednesday and what they want to try to fix coming into Sunday.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And of course, when you mentioned Ashley Westwood, I think that, we absolutely have to. I know that we got to. I got to find it here. Hang on just a second. It's the beauty of morning radio, where you're sitting there and you're trying to find something. And if I can go, where is it? Here it is.
That's an absolute banger.
There you go. So I had to drop that in there. My friend, thank you for coming in late on a Friday and sprinting home from practice to be there at the Palatial Studios and dropping your knowledge on Charlotte.
Trust me, I would have liked to join you before your show went off air, or at least not to have to extend your show. But I don't trust the internet on the way home.
Nor should you
on I-485. I wouldn't have trusted that connection.
No doubt. It's always great, my friend. Thanks. You've always got a golden ticket. You can crash whenever you want.
Look forward to seeing you guys down there, man. Thank you.
All right, be good. That's
Take care, man.
That's Will Pelagic and Willie P. Style on the Twitters, and it's IE. 36 points on Scrabble. I'm glad that he cleared that up because Diahare's got a bunch of ones with all the vowels in there, but Pelagic 36. But you got to get the empty one and you've got to get the Z. So that's 20 out of the blocks. That's good to know. Are you mentally prepared? Are you mentally prepared for?
I feel fine. Y'all are more stressed out about this than I am.
I ain't stressed out about nothing, brother. Ain't stressed out about nothing. It's going to be fun.
John, you are welcome to come play.
No, you don't want me to play. I would probably gesticulate wildly from the sidelines and sit there and point and have no meaning to the pointing whatsoever. And people would be looking on the broadcast going, what is that idiot doing? Regardless of what I'm doing, they're looking at the broadcast going, what is that idiot doing? But 1:00 social media platforms for Atlanta United. It's the media match. And Jarrett and Maddie will be there representing SDH on the field, and it's going to be fun. So I would recommend being a part of the discussion on the side for them. And then tonight it is 7:00 pregame, Atlanta United Crown Legacy, and that will be a 7:33 kick. And Maddie and I will have pregame, and it'll be Jason on the call. So pre-half and post, and we'll take you through a full experience here on the day. Tomorrow, once again, it is Georgia Impact at 3:00. That is on the network with Jason and Maddie. Jarrett's got Apotheos on the Apotheosian social media platforms and
be on YouTube.
On the YouTube. So Apotheos YouTube. Who are they playing tomorrow?
I believe it's Charlottetown Hops.
Okay, so Hops has put in a lot of goals so far this season, and you can get your review preview about the NPSL Southeast on the network that posted this morning. And then on Sunday, it is Atlanta United. It is the team coming down from Charlotte down the interstate. 4:45 allegedly, so 4:55 with the super hyper mega Big Fox pregame show, and then all the stuff on 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app. This has been a wall-to-wall week, and Jarrett, I will let you have the last word, sir.
Mucha plata, y'all. Be good. Take care of each other. Be kind, please.
What he said. See you at 1 o'clock.